In the grim darkness of the far future, where hope is a myth and mercy is an extinct concept, the first sign of catastrophe was not fire or destruction but a ripple of impossible power, a vibration across reality so delicate yet so overwhelming that every astropath on Terra screamed in synchronized agony, their minds cracking open like fragile glass beneath the weight of a presence that did not belong to this universe. And as their psychic wails echoed through the polar fortresses, the hive stacks, the Senatorum chambers, and the catacombs where chained psychers powered the Astronomicon, reality itself folded aside like parchment, revealing a figure who stepped through the tear with the casual grace of a man strolling into a room he had always owned, dressed in the crimson-black uniform of a distant era, smiling with the unsettling amusement of a being who had never feared consequence. This was Q, a trickster god from beyond causality, and as Inquisitor Hall of Dawn raised his bolt pistol inside the Hall of Judgment demanding identification, Q teased him with playful arrogance, inviting him to shoot just to see what would happen, and when the bolt shell struck his forehead, deforming in midair before turning into a delicate butterfly that dissolved into golden light smelling faintly of lavender and storm-washed oceans, Halav realized that this was no demon, no psyker, no Xenos. This was something that defied the categorization of the Imperium itself. Then, with a snap of his fingers, Q shattered Halav's reality and hurled him across visions of Terra's imminent future. Riots born from bureaucratic neglect, Arbites slaughtering civilians, children crushed beneath armored boots, 40 billion deaths unfolding in days, forcing him to confront the Imperium's monstrous cruelty disguised as duty, and as Halav rejected the visions as lies, Q transported him into the past, revealing High Lords casually authorizing orbital bombardments that killed 400 million innocents simply to prevent temporary loss of manufacturum output, unmasking the truth that the Imperium's greatest sin was not heresy but indifference. And when Halav still resisted, Q dragged him to battlefields like Arcanos, where billions died for pride alone, soldiers executed by commissars for retreating from pointless lines, medics murdered for compassion, heroes dying for inches of mud abandoned hours later, every death feeding the warp like wood into a cosmic furnace. Then Q took Halav deeper into a cathedral where a 12-year-old girl, bright, hopeful, dreaming of becoming a medic, was sacrificed during psyker sanctioning, her mind shattered and body discarded because she might be dangerous one day. And as Halav whispered that such sacrifices were necessary, Q's playful tone broke, his voice turning icy as he declared that this was not necessity but cowardice, blind fear weaponized into doctrine. Snapping reality again, Q dragged Halav into the warp itself, a roiling sea of souls and nightmares where the Chaos Gods, Khorne's fury, Nurgle's despair, Tsench's schemes, Slaanish's ecstasy, reached upward feeding on the Imperium's suffering, and Halav saw with soul-hollowing clarity that every purge, every execution, every cruelty strengthened the very gods the Imperium claimed to fight, revealing humanity as the architect of its own damnation. But then something extraordinary happened. Q stepped into the warp, and the gods recoiled in primal terror as his presence bent the immaterium around him, demons unraveling at his glance, bloodthirsters freezing mid-swing, and when Khorne roared for him to leave, Q mocked him, snapping his fingers and making the entire warp momentarily doubt its own existence. And when the visions ended, Q gave Halav a choice: continue serving the machine or acknowledge its rot. And when Halav refused to answer, Q escalated, summoning a tide of demons into the Hall of Judgment, letting Halav fight hopelessly until the last moment before freezing time and erasing the demonic horde, effortlessly reminding the Inquisitor that he fought out of instinct, futility, and indoctrination. Then a farcer of Ulthwi appeared, warning that Q's presence threatened to unravel fate itself, urging him to leave, but Q, driven by curiosity rather than conscience, refused, pushing Halav into deeper crisis, and soon alarms blared as Grey Knights, living weapons of the Ordo Malleus, stormed Halav's sanctum to execute him for corruption. But Q froze them in time, mocking their arrogance before relocating them elsewhere to think about their life choices, granting Halav a strange blessing that compelled those who tried to kill him to hesitate just long enough for doubt to form. And as Halav fled with his apprentice Marin into the Underhive, he found a community of mutants, victims of Terra's decay, who challenged him with the consequences of his past purges, forcing him to confront the blood on his hands, and while they granted him refuge, he broadcast forbidden evidence across the galaxy to radical inquisitors like Covenant, planting seeds of rebellion for the first time in millennia. But above them, the warp split open again as Chaos launched an attack on Q, tearing through Terra's crust, flooding the Underhive ceiling with warp tissue pulsing like a living wound, proving the gods feared Q so much they were willing to risk manifestation on the holy capital itself. Yet in the midst of this cosmic turmoil came something more shocking. The Emperor, not the corpse on the golden throne but a fragment of his psychic consciousness, manifested before Q in the Hall of Judgment, accusing him of destabilizing the Imperium, admitting with weary sorrow that he could no longer stop the atrocities committed in his name and commanding Q to leave. But Q refused, calling the Imperium a monument to failure built on lies, and the Emperor, drawing on the faith of trillions, struck at Q with the raw fury of a god, beginning a battle so cosmic that Terra's rotation halted, stars flickered, black holes formed and collapsed, and reality bent like molten steel as two beings beyond comprehension clashed, neither able to destroy the other, ending in a stalemate that left the galaxy trembling and the warp in disarray as the Chaos gods cowered. And as the Emperor faded, warning that the reckoning would come, Q declared he would stay, not to save the Imperium but to make it interesting, to inject uncertainty into a universe addicted to dogma, watching with amusement as inquisitors hesitated before signing warrants, commissars paused before executions, tech priests questioned ancient dogmas, and across the galaxy for the first time in 10,000 years, a question sprouted in human minds: is this truly the only way? And Halav, now a hunted traitor, carrying stolen data and a fragile spark of hope, fled into the shadows with Marin, vowing to build a network of allies who dared to see the truth, while somewhere above, Q watched like an amused cosmic spectator, smiling as he whispered into the void that in the grim darkness of the far future, where there was only war, he had introduced the one thing more dangerous than any weapon, fleet, or god: uncertainty, and the galaxy would never be the same again.